Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
The past is a weight, a chain forged by your own hands. Every mistake, every regret, every wound, carried not because you must, but because you refuse to let go. You walk forward, yet your mind lingers in corridors of shame and sorrow, replaying scenes that can no longer be rewritten. Tell me, do you believe the past grants you power? Or have you merely convinced yourself that suffering is a form of atonement? The truth is, the past is not a teacher, nor a guide. It is a specter. And the more you feed it with your thoughts, the stronger it grows, whispering in your ear that you are still the same. But you are not. You are what you choose to be in this moment. And in this moment you decide whether you remain a prisoner or break free. Most men kneel before their past, worshipping their failures like relics of a fallen kingdom. They sift through ruins, searching for meaning where there is none. But what is past is past. It does not care for your remorse, nor will it offer you redemption. Your only penance is action. Do you wish to be better? Then be better. Not through lamentation, but through ruthless reconstruction. Burn the bridges that lead back to old versions of yourself. Sever the ties that bind you to men who only knew your weakest form. The past will call your name, begging for one last conversation, one last indulgence. Do not answer. Let the dead stay buried. You tell yourself you cannot forget, that to leave the past behind is to deny what has shaped you. A lie. You do not need to forget. You need to transcend. A warrior does not carry every battle upon his back. He carries only the lessons, forged into the steel of his resolve. But you, do you carry wisdom, or merely the rusted chains of self-pity? There is no honor in drowning yourself in history. You do not build a kingdom by lamenting lost wars. You build by turning your eyes to the horizon and forging new conquests. Mourn if you must, but do so as a king at a funeral, briefly and without weakness. Some will try to pull you back, reminding you of who you once were. They will call you by the names of your failures, treating you as if you are bound to them forever. Do not entertain their voices. They speak from their own fear, afraid that if you rise, they will be left behind. You owe them nothing. You owe your past nothing. You owe only the future, the version of you who has yet to be born. He waits for you on the other side of hesitation, watching, wondering if you will have the courage to let go. To move forward, you must become comfortable with loss. The loss of old identities, the loss of old comforts, even the loss of old pain, because some men cling to their suffering, fearing who they might be without it. You see them in every corner of the world, broken men who have built shrines around their wounds, lighting candles to their grievances. But suffering is not sacred. It is only useful if it fuels transformation. If not, it is nothing more than a shackle. And the man who refuses to remove his shackles does not deserve freedom. Greatness demands sacrifice. And the first thing you must sacrifice is your attachment to what was. If you cannot do this, you will remain as you are, haunted, half alive, shackled to ghosts of your own making. But if you dare, if you truly dare, you will become something greater. The past will shrink behind you, its power broken, its voice silenced. And in its place, a new voice will emerge. Yours. The voice of the man you were meant to be. Tell me, how long have you waited? How many nights have you spent staring at the ceiling, haunted by what can no longer be undone? How many mornings have you woken up, swearing that today would be different? only to be pulled back into the same cycle. The cycle of regret, of hesitation, of self-doubt. There is no salvation in repetition. There is only decay. But the truth, as brutal as it may be, is this: you are the architect of your suffering. No one holds you in the past but you, and that means no one but you can set yourself free. The past is a prison, but the lock is on the inside. And yet many choose to stay, not because they are forced, but because stepping into the unknown terrifies them more than reliving the pain they already know. But you, if you are listening to these words, you already feel it. The pull forward, the yearning for something beyond the cycle. So ask yourself, will you remain a captive or will you turn the key? The past may whisper, but your future roars, and it is calling for you to rise. You hold it, and at any moment you can decide to drop it. No more mourning, no more apologies, no more turning back. You are not the man you were yesterday, and tomorrow you will not be the man you are today. That is the law of growth, the law of power. Let the past stay where it belongs, in ashes. You were not made to be a prisoner. You were made to conquer. The mind is a labyrinth, and within it the past echoes like a voice trapped in the corridors of time. It convinces you that revisiting your mistakes will lead to resolution, that dissecting every moment of regret will yield a different outcome. But the past is not clay. It does not yield to shaping hands. It is stone, unmoving, indifferent. You think replaying it will allow you to alter its course, but you are only deepening the trench of your own suffering. The more you revisit it, the deeper it carves into you, until it becomes a scar so familiar that you mistake it for part of your identity. You believe you're searching for answers, for closure, for some grand revelation that will set you free. But you are only feeding the loop, tightening the chain, binding yourself to a time that no longer exists. Your mind is not a sanctuary. It is a battlefield. It wages war against itself, crafting illusions of control where none exist. It whispers that if you analyze the past just one more time, if you break it down to its smallest pieces, you will find the key to undoing it. But there is no key. There is only an open door that you refuse to step through. You do not need to solve the past. You need to walk away from it. But you hesitate, gripping onto old wounds as if they are sacred, as if they hold some hidden wisdom. They do not. They are remnants of a war that ended long ago. And yet you insist on staying in the ruins, running your hands over the rubble, hoping to find something worth saving. There is nothing. And the longer you stay, the more you become like the ruins themselves, stagnant, lifeless, lost in time. The mind will never tell you to leave the past behind. It will anchor you to it, feeding you the illusion that dwelling on it is a form of justice. You replay conversations, searching for the moment where you could have said something different. You relive betrayals, wondering how you could have seen them coming. You analyze your failures, believing that if you just feel them deeply enough, they will somehow be redeemed. But there is no redemption in repetition, only decay. The past is a fire you refuse to stop touching, convinced that if you endure the burn long enough, it will eventually stop hurting. But it won't. Because the pain does not come from the event itself, it comes from your refusal to let go of it. Your mind is an architect, and every thought you entertain is a brick in the house you build for yourself. Some build castles of ambition. Others build prisons of regret. And you, With every replayed memory, with every revisited pain, you are reinforcing the walls of your own confinement. Do you not see? The past does not hold you. It is you who refuses to walk away. And why? Because pain is familiar, because suffering is predictable, because the idea of stepping forward into the unknown terrifies you more than reliving the agony you have already come to understand. You have made a home out of your own suffering. But tell me, what kind of man chains himself to a house that is already burning? Regret is not wisdom. Guilt is not growth. You think that drowning in your past will somehow cleanse you, that if you punish yourself long enough you will be absolved. But self-destruction does not lead to transformation. It leads only to ruin. You are not erasing your past. You are engraving it deeper into your mind. Every repetition carves the memory further into your being until it becomes your identity. And a man who identifies with his past has no future. He's a relic, a living monument to what he once was, unable to become anything more. He's not moving forward. He's not even standing still. He's sinking deeper and deeper until there is nothing left of him but echoes of what once could have been. The past has no more power than you allow it. It does not breathe, it does not think, it does not seek you out in the night. It is you who keeps it alive. You are the one dragging its corpse through every waking moment, refusing to bury what should have been laid to rest long ago. And what is left of a man who cannot let go? A ghost, a shadow of himself wandering through life but never truly living. Do you wish to be that man? Do you wish to exist as nothing more than a reflection of yesterday's failures? If not, then you must decide, right here, right now, to sever the ties, to release the grip, to stop revisiting what no longer exists. The chains do not bind you, you bind yourself. The suffering does not persist, you persist in revisiting it. The only way forward is through release, through a ruthless abandonment of everything that no longer serves you. It will not be comfortable. It will not be gentle. It will feel like a betrayal of the version of you who has found comfort in suffering. But you do not owe that version of yourself anything. He is dead, and the only thing left to do with the dead is to bury them. Some will say that leaving the past behind is a denial of who you are, that to forget is to lose yourself. But those who say this are cowards, afraid of what they might become. The mind is an addict, and its drug of choice is the past. Not the past in its entirety, not the moments of triumph or joy, but the wounds, the failures, the betrayals. It returns to them compulsively, not to heal, not to learn, but because suffering has become familiar, predictable. A man who has lived in darkness for too long does not seek the light. He fears it, because the unknown is a far greater terror than the pain he has already come to understand. The past, no matter how cruel, is something the mind has navigated before. It knows the terrain. But the future, the vast and unwritten, offers no such certainty. And so, without realizing it, you return to the same memories, reliving them not because they offer you anything new, but because they are known. You mistake the familiarity of pain for control, when in truth you are a slave to it. The brain is a machine, and like any machine, it runs on patterns. The more you revisit a thought, the deeper it is etched into your neural pathways. Every memory replayed, every wound reopened, is a signal sent to your body that this is important, this is necessary. And so your brain obliges. It releases the same chemicals, fuels the same emotions, traps you in the same cycle. You believe you are thinking, but you are only reacting. The same way an addict reaches for their next dose, you reach for your next memory, your next spiral of regret, your next justification for why you cannot move forward. You do not see it for what it is, an addiction. A habit so deeply ingrained that you mistake it for truth. But the truth is far simpler. You are not trapped in the past. You are feeding it. Your mind will never offer you freedom. It will not hand you peace. It is designed for survival, not for fulfillment. It clings to the past because the past has not killed you, and that, in its logic, is reason enough to stay. This is why fear exists, not to destroy you, but to keep you from stepping into the unknown. And yet, if you listen to this instinct blindly, you will never evolve. You will live and die inside the same cycle, mistaking your suffering for something profound, when it is nothing more than repetition, familiar misery masquerading as meaning. Tell me, how many times have you done this? How many times have you fed yourself the same poison, hoping this time it will taste different? How many times have you relived the same moment, convinced that if you just turn it over in your mind one more time, you will uncover something you missed? You won't, because the past has nothing left to give you. There is only one way to break free. It is not through waiting. It is not through understanding. It is through action. You must starve the past, deny it the fuel that keeps it alive. And this requires effort, discipline, a brutal kind of awareness. Every time your mind drags you backward, you must rip yourself forward. Every time the urge rises to relive what has already been, you must counter it with creation, with something new, something untethered from the cycle. This is no small task. Your brain will resist. It will fight to keep you where you are, whispering that this reflection, this indulgence in suffering is necessary, that it is part of your identity, that without it you are nothing, a lie. You are not your past, you are not your pain. You are whatever you decide to build in this moment. But decision alone is not enough. You must act. It will feel unnatural at first, like stepping onto unsteady ground, like breathing a thinner air. Your mind will scream at you to return, to find comfort in old wounds, to seek shelter in the past, no matter how much it has hurt you. Do not listen. Let it scream. Let it panic. Let it beg. But do not obey. You have obeyed for long enough. You have allowed yourself to be dragged backward long enough. The time has come to reclaim control, to rewire the machine, to force your mind to operate on a new law, one that serves you rather than enslaves you. This is not an easy battle, but no battle worth fighting ever is. Some will never do this. They will die inside their own minds, prisoners of their own history, chained to a life that ended years ago. And they will call it fate. They will call it personality. They will call it unchangeable. But it is none of those things. It is simply a refusal to fight, a refusal to break the cycle, to endure the discomfort of uncertainty. They will watch as others move forward, as others rewrite themselves, as others leave the past behind and step into something new. And they will wonder why they remain the same. They will wonder why their pain persists, why their suffering does not yield, why they cannot seem to escape the life they despise. The answer will never change because they chose to stay. And you, what will you choose? You cannot wait for the mind to offer you peace. It will not. You must take it. You must seize control, wrestle it from the grip of old patterns and carve a new path, one of clarity, one of certainty. And this will not come from reflection, from dwelling, from analyzing. It will come from movement, from doing what the past tells you you cannot, from taking action that your old self never dared to take. You think you need to feel ready before you begin? Another lie. Readiness is a product of motion. Clarity comes from the act of stepping forward, not from waiting for the mind to grant you permission. It never will. It was never designed to. You will never think your way into freedom. You must act your way into it. Every day, every moment. The past will try to reclaim you, try to remind you of who you once were, try to whisper that you are still the same. Do not answer. Let those voices go unanswered. Let them fade. Let them die. They are not yours. They are echoes. And you, if you have the will, if you have the resolve, if you have the audacity to reject everything that no longer serves you, you will finally step forward into something new. The mind is a battlefield, and attention is the prize. Every thought you entertain is a soldier, either fighting for your future or waging war against it. The past demands a throne in this war, a seat of power from which it dictates your every move. It whispers of regrets, of mistakes, of doors that have long since closed, and if you listen, you surrender. Every moment spent dwelling on what cannot be changed is a moment stolen from what can. You believe you are merely reflecting, but in truth you are sacrificing. Time, energy, momentum, all surrendered at the altar of the past. And the more you feed it, the more it grows, expanding like a shadow until it consumes every opportunity, every possibility that dares to exist in the present. What you focus on dictates your future. And if your focus remains chained to yesterday, tomorrow will be nothing more than a reflection of what you refuse to leave behind. You think regret is harmless, that it is simply a byproduct of experience. But regret is an architect, designing the walls of your own confinement. Every thought, every memory, every what if lays another brick. And soon what once was a path forward is now a prison cell built by your own hands. The irony? The door is wide open. You could leave at any moment, but you won't. Because to leave means to release control, to surrender the illusion that by obsessing over the past you can somehow change it. But the past does not bargain. It does not negotiate. It only takes. And every second you give it is a second stolen from the life you could be living. The future is not built in some distant place waiting for you to arrive. It is built now, in this moment, with every decision, every action, every choice. But if your hands are full of yesterday, how can you grasp what today has to offer? A man who clings to old battles cannot wield new weapons. A mind consumed by regret cannot conceive of new possibilities. You wonder why your life remains the same, why progress feels impossible, why you keep running in circles. The answer is simple. Your focus remains fixed on what has already happened, rather than what is happening now. And so you move, but you do not advance. You live, but you do not grow. You exist, but you do not become. You cannot plant new seeds in soil poisoned by regret. The mind is fertile ground, but what you choose to cultivate determines the life you will harvest. Fill it with thoughts of the past, and you will reap nothing but ghosts. Fill it with visions of the future, and you will build something worthy of your existence. But you cannot have both. Every thought is a choice, every focus a declaration of where you are going. And if your mind remains anchored to yesterday, do not be surprised when tomorrow looks no different. The past has no power except what you grant it. And yet, so many choose to serve it, to kneel before memories that no longer hold relevance. Why? Because regret is easy, action is hard, and people would rather suffer in familiar pain than dare to step into the unknown. The opportunities you seek are not hidden. They are not elusive. They are here, waiting, unnoticed, suffocated beneath the weight of your distractions. You claim life has given you nothing, that the world has been unfair, that success belongs to others but not to you. But how many chances have you ignored? How many doors have you failed to see, blinded by your own obsession with what has already passed? The future is speaking to you, offering paths unseen, but you cannot hear it over the echoes of your own lamentations. You do not lack opportunity, you lack presence. You do not lack potential, you lack focus. The past does not have you trapped. You are simply looking in the wrong direction. The man who stares at a closed door for too long forgets that there are others standing open. How many times have you done this? You have been given a mind powerful enough to shape your reality, yet you have used it to imprison yourself.